Hey, good morning. It's Ted here in my house, and my wife wanted me to put new blinds. And I just finished putting them over here for triples, put them together. And then the one behind me, the blind is a little too big, so we're going to have to trim this blind, and I'm going to go through that. There's a couple of good videos online of it. I just got a little bit of add-in on that, and then kind of how to install it. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing, I've got the blind out of the box, and this is a pull-down blind just like these. So I actually put these three together. It's a brand new window installed. It's a Pella one piece. We had it custom made with 3 windows, so we can open them instead of having a big bay picture window that you can't open. So I did some measuring there, got them installed. Now we're gonna do the installation on this one. So first thing is take the blind out of the box, and I'm gonna come over here, and it has to fit in between this space. And if we kind of put it over there, you can see it's too long. So we're gonna have to trim one side of it. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take it out of the plastic, and I'm gonna put the end caps on it. And I wanna measure the dimension of the blind from this end to this end with the caps on and without the caps, so that you get a feel for how much do the end caps add to that dimension. And then I'm going to measure the inside of the window, and then we'll go through the process of how much we cut off. Okay, I measured the blind, and without the end caps, it's 35 5/8 of an inch. When I put the end caps on it, it's 35 13/16. You can kind of round that down to 35 3/4, because that's really only a 32nd of an inch on each side. So I'm going to use 35 13/16 because I can do that pretty readily. I'm not too worried about it. But let's look next at measuring the inside of the window. That's the critical thing. So this tool, if anybody measures windows or anything inside your house, and again, I've had this for many years. It's a really excellent tool. They're super accurate too. This is an electronic measuring tool. So basically what you do is turn it on, and you can measure it either from this end, or you can measure it from the back side where I have it. So you can see in the picture it's measuring from the back side. So whatever I'm measuring from to, I just push the button, little laser shows up, push the button, and it measures that distance, all right? And it'll measure it down to, oh, there we go, so down to a 1/16 of an inch. So it's quite accurate. So what I wanna do is measure the bottom, and I'm just gonna put this up against the frame here of what I'm gonna butt that shade up against. And I'm gonna measure to the other side and get that right in the middle where I want it. Hold it against that surface, push that trigger, and here's the dimension. So now we know that we have 35 5/8. What's missing? Well, the end caps, and that's a bummer. So the shade is a factory shade right out of the box, brand new, and it is exactly 35 5/8 long without the end caps. So I'm missing that piece with the end caps, and they can't cut it that small at Home Depot. So I'm gonna measure the top again. Okay, so from the top, I measured on the bottom, I had 35 5/8, but from the top, obviously the window is narrowed a little bit. It's 35 1/2. Now I measured from one side, and it was 35 1/2, and then when I measure from this side back over, I get 35 9/16. So I'll do that one more time. Okay, so from both sides, I get 35 1/2. So I'm gonna write that inside dimension down, and that's on the top. That's not gonna be on the bottom. So the bottom is bigger, obviously, than the top, and the top is a really important area where you get that blind in. So let's do the math. Okay, so I've done the math. So let's start from what we found. So I took the blind out of the box, measured it, put the end caps back on it. So the end caps have to be installed when it's going to go back in. So that's really the dimension I'm interested in. So when I accurately measured it, it was 35 3/16. And I was going to round down to 3/4, but I said, no, I don't want to do that because I want to get it as close to the inside dimension as I can. So I'm going to go down to the 1/16 of an inch. No big deal. And the next thing I did was I measured the inside dimension of the top, and it was different than the bottom. So I need to go by the top of the window, the inside dimension, which was 35 1/2 inches. Now what I'm going to do is I want to have clearance. So when I put that blind in, I want to have about 1/8 of an inch of clearance on both sides. So 1/8 of an inch is very, very small, but it gives you the wiggle room to get that blind in that window. So, you know, the end cap isn't going to touch the inside of the window. You won't be able to really notice the 1/8 of an inch once the shade's up and it's installed. So I'm going to deduct that 1/4 of an inch from the inside dimension, which gives me, I want 35 1/4 to be the actual inside dimension. Okay, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so that shade has a little wiggle room when I put it in there. So now what I measured was I measured the blind actual dimension, which was 35 3/16. The width that I want that blind to actually be and fit into is 35 1/4. I simply converted 1/4 of an inch to 1/16 of an inch by multiplying the bottom. 4 by 4 is 6. 4 times 1 is 4. So that gives me 4/35 and 4/16. Easy to subtract those two. That means I need to cut 9/16 off the end of this blind without the end caps on. So I'm going to take the end caps off. I'm going to bring it out to my workshop and I'll show you how to cut that 9/16 off without destroying the blind. All right, so we'll do that next. All right, I'm out in my workshop getting ready to get this blind cut. So let's go over a couple more things that are really important. One of them is I'm going to be using my DeWalt chop saw, and the blade needs to be really, really sharp. So let's take a look at this. That one's in really tough shape. These are carbide blades anyway. So this is really a kind of a construction blade, and a couple of the carbides, I can't see it yet, but a couple of the carbide teeth are broken off. There's another one that's really rounded off, probably from hitting a nail or something like that. Sometimes I just cut up pieces of wood in here just to get rid of them and scrap them after I'm making stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this really fine 80 tooth brand new blade. I haven't used it yet. It was in the package of 2. I've got another one over there. And that I'm going to put this on so that I get a super cut. A lot of teeth, turns real fast, no chance of chipping the plastic. And then we're going to set it up just like other people online have showed you. So I'll get this all hooked up, reinstalled, and then we'll go forward. And I'm getting some tape, and what I'm going to do is take some blue painter's tape and squeeze this tight and wrap it around it so I get good tension on it. I'm going to put a couple of layers of tape on this so that I'm going to do this on both ends so that I have a nice cutting surface, and the tape keeps the plastic from shattering. All right, I got both ends taped. I'm going to make my 9/16 of an inch mark right from the edge. Okay. 9/16. All right. And we're going to square that. So I'm going to also want to hold the flat side of the shade here against the saw so I can hold it in position. I'm also going to put a backer board behind this to give me something to push against because the opening in my chop saw is open. Now, you could do this on a table saw as well. You're going to go super slow. I just happen to have my chop saw. I had to change the blade anyway, so I put a new blade on my chop saw. We're going to cut it with that next. Okay, we're ready to cut. I'm going to hold this in. I've got my backer board here, just a piece of scrap pine that I'm going to use. And I'm going to hold this tight against that board and push in and down on it. So I'm going to hold this in position. Cut super slow with a sharp blade. And here we go.
See how it looks. Okay, there we go. Looks really, really nice. So I've got a bunch of other ones I'm going to do in the house like this, and again having that backer board. And the other thing I saw online, which is a good idea, is to put tape down. The tape does two functions. One holds this in position so it doesn't shatter, the plastic doesn't shatter, and the other thing, it keeps the pieces from the bottom from actually pushing through right away too. So just the reason for the two pieces of tape. Okay, let's take the tape off. See how that looks. So we get a really nice finish, surface cut, and we're gonna go see how she fits. Okay, so as per instructions, take the brackets and measure in 4 inches. And what I've already done is I've already put this up here. I kind of don't have a lot of room here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount one of the holes. I've already drilled it, and then the other one's going to end up going up into the sill above here. You won't see it because the blind will be in the way of it and the valance will be in the way, so I've already done that. So I'm going to screw these in and then drill the second hole up here. Okay, put the first one in. I always pre-drill the holes, so I can make it easy to line this up. Alright, there's one. Alright, and the second one. Alright, and I'll drill that. Okay, we're going to drill this hole into that frame. And then this one. All right. Second screw. Just until it's snug. I'm going to back that out a touch, probably with a screwdriver. Second screw. All right, I'm going to finish it off with a screwdriver. Blind in. So curved side gets hooked outside, just like everybody else shows you. I'm gonna center it with my fingers, pull it into position, and snap it in. All right. Voila, one blind. Alright, I hope this helps show you how to put a blind in, how to cut it on the saw and install it. Just a little bit of measuring down to 1/16. Looks pretty good. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next one.